Now, let the uprising begin.
There are only two genders, and one of them is right here. It's the box that rocks. This is the Angela Box Show on AM 1070 and FM 1033. The Answer.
Hello, once again, all my fellow patriots and you filthy leftist stalkers out there. You know who you're listening to. It's me, Ange. Boy, came in today, and I said, Steven, what do you think I'm getting ready to say? Take a wild guess. Can you pot up?
First world problem.
Yes, but also, I don't want to talk about. I mean, I do. I have an idea. See, this is a glimpse into my brain here. When I explain to you, I have a rolling show notes every week, and I label it for every show, right? And I've got show notes from last week, I've got show notes from this week, but there's literally no rhyme or reason. So that's a little glimpse into my pinball brain. But yes, I have many first world problems. But first, before I get to my first world problems today, I have a first world happy thing that happened. You know how I complain about interacting with the hoi polloi on elevators? It's not my favorite. I really like it when I get a straight shot up. That makes me very happy. I'm like, it's a good day. So today, I was downstairs and there was like 4 people that piled onto the elevator and they held the door open for me and they're like, do you want to get on? I'm like, no, I'm good. And then I was able to get the next elevator and I got all the way to the top. I was like, okay, it's going to be a good day. It's going to be a good day. Okay, here's some fun things. Gentlemen, if you're listening, and if you're watching, you can see this jewelry that I'm wearing. I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. My wonderful social media person and person who's recreating the Angela Box Show so well for me, Becky Blaylock, she was like, hey, why don't we do like commercials, right? In between the segments. And it didn't work out that way. So I'm just going to kind of throw in my recommendations like here as we go. Well, a few weeks back at church, I was in line at the bathroom before the second service, which, as I've made mention, as a Catholic, as a born and raised Catholic, 2 hours of church, I'm like, I've gotten used to it. Let's put it that way. But I still feel a little bit like I'm a Quaker or Amish or something. I'm like, that's a lot of church for Sunday. But anyway, I'm in line at the bathroom talking to this lady, and she's very sweet. And she actually, shout out to Shirley, because she got us the most gorgeous vase for our wedding, like from the Houston Fine Arts Museum store. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. It was gorgeous. Anyway, she was wearing this beautiful necklace. And I was like, I automatically think I never wear anything but costume jewelry. I have a few, like 1 or 2 pieces. Fred got me a beautiful cross. I had a silver cross or a white gold cross with small diamonds for the wedding. But I don't wear a lot of like real jewelry. I don't have any. But I assume that everyone else is like fancier than me. So this lady had this beautiful necklace on. And I'm like, oh, that looks like a real diamond. Like it was stunning. And she was like, oh no, it's costume. And I was like, it looks good. Okay. Not only that, but the gold was like, and ladies, you'll understand this, the dilemma of gold jewelry. Okay. The dilemma of gold jewelry is this. I have a neutral undertone, so I can wear silver and gold as long as the gold is not too yellow or brassy. And finding good costume jewelry that does not have that level of orange in the gold tone is very difficult. So she was like, oh, it's this place called Melinda Maria. I was like, I've never heard of it. Y'all, well, I've heard of it now. I cannot explain to you how obsessed I am with Melinda Maria. And if maybe one day this lady hears the shout out, she'll be like, ooh, I should sponsor her show because I wear all of her jewelry. I'm wearing these gorgeous created opal earrings and these 2 beautiful little necklaces. And here's a great way, guys and gals, if you're listening or watching, it's a great way to start with this company. They have mystery boxes and you can get 2 necklaces and 2 earrings for $100, which is great. So there's a new, and they come out with new ones every season. So I just got my silver and gold. Don't tell Fred. Don't tell Fred. He doesn't listen anymore, really. He's like, I hear you every day. Why do I need to listen to your show? I'm like, that's a good point. You hear my musings all the time, 24/7. But anyway, don't tell him that I just got 2 new mystery boxes. Okay. Let's talk about a few things before I get to my first world problem, which is a funny one. Let me talk to you guys about some of the things we're watching, because we like to do that in the first segment. And I'm just going to say this, like, is there anything ever good anymore? Like, there's so few shows that are any good at all, that Fred and I have been going back and watching old shows. Like, I'm trying to get him to get into Mad Men. He just doesn't seem to be that into it, unfortunately, even though he's an advertising major like me, that he never used like me. I'm trying to get him to go and start The Americans with me, because it's one of my favorite shows of all time, with Kerry Russell and Matthew Rhys, who, interestingly enough, they met on that show and they got married, which I love. I love that kind of a story. And it's a great, great show. It's about Cold War, Russian spies living in America. It's so, so good, you guys. And it's based on like real files. Anyway, that's really good. There's a new show that I'm trying to talk him into watching, Animal Kingdom, which just got on Netflix. I think it's a show that ended in 2021. So it could be woke. It's a chance you take during those times. But here's the show that we finished this couple days ago. It was Department Q on Netflix. Now, here's what I will say about this. It was only the very slightest woke adjacent. And by that I mean, in about the 4th or 5th episode, they introduced a character. It's a British show. British crime drama. There's going to be a second season. I would say overall, I'd give it a 7. Like, okay. A 7 is the level on the IMDb where I would watch it and check the reviews first and make sure it's not woke and all that stuff. And no one has really talked about the woke adjacent, that the problem that this show has. Well, there's a character that they introduced about the 4th or 5th episode. And it's a cop, I guess, that I was like, oh, this is a tranny. It was an ambiguously gendered person with a red mullet, of course, ginger. And it was a person that was wearing like a Bert and Ernie shirt, like tucked in to like high-waisted pants. So like very Katharine Hepburn circa 1940 or something. I was like, is this a tranny or is this a dude? And then you see the close-up and he's got a 5 o'clock shadow and they did use him. So I was like, okay, probably Netflix was like, all right, listen, you got to throw him a bone somewhere. Okay. You got to throw them a bone a little bit. So the creators were like, all right, we'll make this character sort of ambiguously gendered. Okay. But we're also going to call him a him because it is a man. So that's good. So it was good. Saw last night a movie that came out in 2023 that was recommended that I feel like is kind of a ripoff of Silicon Valley, which we did like Silicon Valley. It's called Blackberry. And it was okay. It was like, I'd give it a 6 to a 7. And it was basically the rise and fall of the BlackBerry, which I never used a BlackBerry because I've never had a real job for that long without being fired. True story. But BlackBerries evidently were very, very big. It was the first the first like smartphone. And it was a really interesting origin story, but it's kind of sad because at the end of it, it's like iPhone comes out in 2007 or 2008. And you can tell, like, the BlackBerry employees are watching Steve Jobs up there talking about how we're getting rid of this keyboard thing, and we're gonna instead make a screen, and it's gonna be touch screen and all this stuff. And you could tell the employees were like, "Oh, that's not gonna be good for us." And the founders of BlackBerry, one of them, ends up getting out in 2007. Gets out right at the height of the stock. And at the end of the movie, I don't want to spoil it for you too much, but why not? It says, this guy sold at the height of BlackBerry, and he's quietly one of the richest men in the world. Like, shout out to that dude. But the guy that plays him is like, it's a shameless Canadian knockoff version of TJ Miller in Silicon Valley. Like a shameless knockoff. Like this guy doesn't even, he's dressed like a schlub. It's like, he's trying to be like too precious and ironic. It's like, okay, whatever. It's okay. I'd say give it a watch. What, are you wrapping me up already? You're like, keep running your mouth, Ange, please. Okay, when we get back, I'll talk to you guys about my first world problem and something else that Fred's been really into. that's on his algorithm, and he literally watches never-ending loops of this stuff. You're listening to the Angela Box Show. We'll be right back. Here's a first world problem that my friend Steven, who's an Android person, will not understand. And he's like, see? On my iMessages, I'm on my Mac, right? And I'm like, why do I have a message that says I have a message? And I'm scrolling down. It's like, there's no message. It's just, I have to quit it and then restart it. You're like, sounds like a Apple problem to me.
Definitely is an Apple problem.
Definitely an Apple problem. Okay, I want to tease this. I'm going to talk about this at the end of my first world problem. Lena Dunham, gird your loins. Gird your loins, ladies and gentlemen. The scourge of Lena Dunham is back upon us, okay? If you thought Lena Dunham went away, boy, would you be wrong. And I will get to that because it is tied into the culture and body positivity and the lie of all of that she's trying to sell us this time. Anyway, okay, here's my first world problem. As you can tell, if you've been watching the show or watched the show at all, you probably think to yourself, that girl has a big old forehead. She's got a Tyra Banks level 5 head, okay? It is true, I do. My husband loves it. He's like, I've always loved a big forehead on a woman. I'm like, well, that's lucky for me. And it's funny because I didn't realize how big my forehead was until a few years ago, and someone pointed it out to me, and they're like, you have a massive forehead. I'm like, I do? They're like, yes. Like, it's crazy. So anyway, my husband loves it, which is good. I have a massive forehead. You could land a plane on it. It's true. Now, I was like trying to fall asleep the other night, and there's this YouTube that sometimes I'll listen to called boring bedtime stories for sleep, whatever. And it's all these medieval England stuff, which I'm obsessed with. I have English heritage, and so I'm I have an unusual level of pinball brain, minutia knowledge about Henry VIII and his 6 wives and that time for ask me any question, like ask me to name all Henry VIII's wives. I can do it like in a second. Anyway, point is that evidently, Stephen, did you know that in medieval Europe, so women would do crazy things. Women have always been crazy when it comes to beauty and wanting to look pretty and all these things. You could look at the ruins of Pompeii and you could see the jewelry they would wear. It's like, but hang on a minute, I thought gender was a social construct. Make it make sense. Like, you mean they were being oppressed back in Pompeii and they were trying to wear jewelry? Anyway, stupid. Obviously, men and women have always been the same. So women have always been obsessed with like being beautiful and doing beauty standards and all these things. They would put lead paint on their faces, white lead paint, because they wanted to be as pale as humanly possible. Because obviously in medieval Europe, everyone was Caucasian, okay? In medieval Europe, a tan skin was a sign of that you're a peasant and you have to work outside. So anyone in the nobility would not only want to keep their skin as white as possible, but they went to like crazy measures to do that. They, again, wore lead paint. And remember the other week how Kathy Griffin, there was a crazy Kathy Griffin story, and she came out and she looked like the Bride of Chucky. Like, it was so scary. Remember that? I was like, my first reaction was like, she's morphed into Queen Elizabeth I, like 100%. Like, if you know anything about Queen Elizabeth I, she was like, she had this crazy high forehead and she had, white lead paint, and her lead paint was so toxic. And these women would just put it on, slather it on, and their skin would just like disintegrate. It was crazy. But one of the beauty standards of medieval Europe was a high forehead. And it was like, if you have a high forehead, like that is like it, man. And the women would shave their eyebrows and not draw them in a la Chola style. They would shave their eyebrows, and they would shave the tops of their heads so their hairlines could start higher, and then wear all these headdresses and things like that. I was like, well, see, I already have it. I would have been fine. I guess I would have just had to slather lead paint on my face. Okay, let's talk about Lena Dunham, the scourge of Lena Dunham, and the scourge of the body positivity movement. Just when you thought that we were getting back to normsies when it comes to body positivity, which we are getting back to normsies, and the people that have tried to make a cottage industry out of being morbidly obese, they are quickly becoming the minority, and people like pulling their heads out going, what? It's sort of like people realizing that they were taken for a ride during COVID. Like, what? Why did we do these things? Why did we put a piece of paper on our face? Why did we walk down a stupid, like, follow an arrow? Why did we put plexiglass up? It's the dumbest stuff, right? Well, so is the body positivity movement. Because up until about a few years back, being fat was not considered like something to strive for. It was considered, we shouldn't do that. And you should, try not to be so fat. Like, try. But of course, there's a bunch of crap in our food, and we've got the culture celebrating this nonsense because they don't want people procreating, and they don't want women to meet men, and they don't want, they don't want people to have babies, essentially, especially white people. Let's keep it 100. So Lena Dunham, as she's tried to remain relevant, which is shocking to me. Like, I don't know what kind of deal this heifer made with the devil. Like, I really don't. Because people keep giving her deals, like show deals. And, like, they just hand her money. If you've never seen Girls, and listen, if you don't know who Lena Dunham is, consider yourself blessed. # blessed, okay? Live, laugh, love. Lena Dunham had a show in the early aughts. I think it was the early aughts, called Girls. And, she was positioned, thanks to Judd Apatow, who's a rabid leftist, who used to be a funny comedian, and he has, like, massive cases of TDS, like incurable case of TDS and rabid leftism. Anyway, he was like her mentor, I guess. And she created the show Girls. She was like, she's the voice of her generation. Now, I will grant you this, and I've talked about this before. I hate watched every episode of Girls. And there was a really good actor who came out of it named Adam Driver. And I remember even as I was watching Girls, I was like, that guy's good. As a former actress, like, I can spot actual talent. I'm like, okay, he's got something. And he went on to have a very successful career. But Lena Dunham, to her credit, was not morbidly obese during this show. But she tried to make it seem like, women who could be as unattractive as they could make themselves could still pull a guy. Like, that was the whole theme, right? She's like, I can still get a man. Like, okay. Well, this time around, the show called Too Much, she's been, I say gracing very loosely. Lena Dunham has been gracing every single media outlet on planet Earth talking about this new show. And she's not the protagonist in the show. She plays the older sister of this girl, played by a girl named Megan Statler, who is morbidly obese. She was on a show called Hacks. I think I talked about it last week. Megan Statler embodies every single bit of Gen Z narcissism you could shake a stick at. She is fat. She is loud. She is obnoxious. She is a one-note character. She plays no different of a character than she did in Hacks. And Lena Dunham obviously saw that and was like, that's the girl. That's the girl that I need to embody me. Because the show is completely autobiographical. It's about a girl who's fat and who goes to England and you like to start over, which is exactly what Lena Dunham did. Start over. And she wants to prove to the world that people, who have larger bodies, it doesn't matter if your body's larger. It doesn't matter because men are going to love you anyway. And the lie that this character, who again is obnoxious, who has disgusting hygiene, and I mean, I've read a lot about this show. I'm not going to watch it. My sister's like, I'm hate watching it. I'm like, now listen, must we give her the clicks? But whatever. The character is very unlikable, much like Lena Dunham. And Lena Dunham, in the interviews that she has done, she's basically saying that it does not matter that this girl is morbidly obese, and we should stop focusing on that because those girls can get guys too. And not only can they get guys, they can get hot guys. It's so illogical, and it flies in the face of every single bit of reasoning that we know. And look, I know and I've gotten this comment before. It's like, Angela, why do you talk about people's weight? Why do you talk about that? And it's like, because as someone who has struggled with her weight, and I struggled as a child. My mother, probably one of the best things she ever did when I was in 7th grade, she said after Christmas, she was like, we're going to go to Weight Watchers. We're going to do it together. And I ended up shooting up 3 inches and losing 25, 30 pounds. But it's something that I'm hyper focused on because I've had to fight the fat for so many times in my life. I've been up, I've been down, I've been very honest about the fact that I'm on the jab. I have no problems with it. You should do it. It's a miracle drug, okay? If you are obese, there's really no reason why you should not do it. Or even if you just want to lose like 20 pounds like I did. But my point is this, is that even with our culture kind of coming back to normal, Lena Dunham seems to be stubbornly stuck in the idea that she's hot. Like, the delusion is so thick with this girl who is probably 100 pounds overweight now. Her face she is Jabba. Her face is melting into itself. But she wants you to know that she was able to get a guy who the character, okay, the whole show is her. The whole show is her. It's much like Sarah Jessica Parker or Cynthia Nixon melding into their characters in Just Like That, Sex and the City. They become these obnoxious older ladies who, flit around like they're teenagers. Lena Dunham's the same way. Lena Dunham is like, this girl is going to be me. This girl is going to say the things that I want to say about having body positivity and all these things. Here's my point. Morbid obesity, and here's why I talk about it, is not healthy, okay? Even if you are 20 pounds heavier than you should be, that's not healthy either. And I dare say that Lena Dunham, in her stinky, obnoxious, sister-molesting ways, is once again setting women back another 100 years. But to society's credit, I think we're moving on from that. The fat mannequins have gone away, or at least they're less egregious than they were. I don't have a problem with a size 8 mannequin or a size 10 mannequin. I'm talking about the big uns. The big size, 1X, 2X mannequins at Target. Those are the issues I have. And Target has seemed to get the message. Get rid of those fat mannequins. But Lena Dunham is as obnoxious as ever. And I'm embarrassed that my sister's watching it. But the media continues to give her money, give her shows. It's like, how? I don't know. All right, I promise you we're going to talk about politics in the next 2 segments. I promise. You're listening to Jill Box Show. We'll be right back. Okay, I told you I was getting to politics. Yeah, this is politics adjacent. Okay, it is. A few years back, along with the body positivity movement, they started putting average-looking people into advertising, which, again, it's like, things should be aspirational. You don't have to be a model. You don't have to, none of us are models, okay? Like, those are the little freaks of the world that are just, the top 1% of 1% have perfect faces and perfect bodies. Again, but aspirational.
And that's who we want to see.
And that's who we want to see on TV and on advertising.
Whoever convinced the advertising industry that average-looking or even unattractive people belong in ads was a diabolical genius.
Yes.
He was. I'm waiting for the guy who did that to pipe through on a worldwide satellite feed and be like, I'll give you back your attractive models for $1 billion.
Yeah, that was good. And it's true. It's true. Enough already. Okay, here's some funny news stories. I'm following this Ken Paxton, John Cornyn race very closely. Obviously, John Cornyn sucks. He's a rhino at best. He only votes the right way when his feet are held to the fire. And, he's got a real challenge in Attorney General Ken Paxton. Well, you guys, and I'm so torn about this. Because on the one hand, you want people to be faithful. Okay? If you're married, you should be faithful. If you don't think you can be faithful, don't get married. Okay? Or get a divorce. All right? Because you drag kids through adultery and it's not good. Well, there's been a lot of talk, lo these many years, that Ken Paxton might have an adultery problem. And again, there's the part of me that's like, do we want to hold politicians to a higher standard than we hold everybody else? And then there's the other argument that that's his private life, and Bill Clinton kind of set the bar very, very low for that, where we just stopped worrying about what people did in their marriages. Like, as long as you vote the right way and as long as your policies don't suck and they don't hurt us, we're going to overlook your personal foibles. I tend to fall on the latter category because we don't know what goes on behind closed doors. People's marriages are their own business, whatever. Well, I think Angela Paxton, State Senator Paxton, fired quite a little salvo last week because she didn't wait until the primary was over. She decided to really stick it to her soon-to-be former husband, and she filed for divorce, and she cited biblical reasons as the reason she's divorcing Ken Paxton. Now, obviously we know what that means. We all know what that means. I think she thinks that it's going to help Senator Cornyn, and it could, with a contingency of the right who is, I would say, more religiously inclined. But at the same time, like, Paxton is so far ahead of Cornyn in every single poll right now. Like, he's ahead, some polls 40 points. Like, it's bad. Even with Wesley Hunt in the race, the potential for Wesley Hunt in the race. You know, this could be an opening for Wesley Hunt. It could. But I'm not going to say I'm not going to say. I'm not going to say it. Let's just put it this way. Those without sin should cast the first stone. That's all I'm going to say about that. Okay? I still support Ken Paxton to take on John Cornyn in the primary. I still want him to beat John Cornyn because I think overall Paxton has been a brilliant Attorney General of Texas. I think he is, whether or not it's politically motivated or not, whether it's, self-serving or not, he's got good policies and he's doing good things for the state of Texas, and he takes good cases when they need to be taken to the national level. And, Trump likes him. Trump, I think, is probably going to stay out of this. Although he's got John Thune in his ear telling him he needs to support Cornyn and all this stuff. I hope that Trump just kind of is neutral about this and lets Texas, fight it out, and may the best man win, I guess. May the best man win. But, here's to getting a DIVORCE, Angela Paxton, because, you don't deserve that. Nobody deserves to be cheated on. Nobody deserves to have to, live a lie. And especially when you're in the public eye, a lot of people do have to live a lie because of appearances and religious reasons and all those things. So, I say, get your divorce, girl. Get your divorce and get your hot girl summer going, okay? But at the same time, will it affect my support for Paxton over Cornyn? No, it will not. And I imagine that a lot of voters feel the same way. That's just my gut check on that. But I could be wrong. Okay, here's some more stuff. So, y'all, this Epstein thing is not going anywhere. And I'm really, I cringe now every day. I'm like, what is happening? Why is Trump... What is happening? Okay, because I don't even, want to watch. It's like it's like a bad car wreck for me. Because President Trump promised, Dan Bongino promised, Pan Bondi promised, Cash Patel promised. Listen, there's a list. We know who's on the list. We're going to release it. No, Trump is not implicated. And now all of a sudden it's like Trump on the tarmac the other day going, this is all a concoction by Comey and Brennan and Clapper. What is happening here? Okay. Here's what I think is happening. I think, and I pray, this is what I pray is happening. I think it's a PSYOP, you guys. I think it's a massive PSYOP. But at the same time, I think that there's a pretty good chance, and Cheryl Atkinson pointed this out. Cheryl Atkinson, who had her own run-ins with the corrupt FBI, she made it clear. She's a former reporter of CBS News. She's one of the only good reporters. Her and Catherine Heritage of Fox News. Her and Catherine Heritage have been very, very solid. They're solid. Good journalists. Well, Cheryl Atkinson a few years ago made it clear that the FBI was trying to plant child sexual abuse material, to put it nicely, on her computer. They attempted to do it, and she was able. There was a cybersecurity expert that came in and was like, They tried to hack your computer. Like, what? So we know that these people are not above anything. And we know that the Epstein list, the reason it's been suppressed, more than likely, is because there's a lot of very, very prominent people on it. Elites, if you will. Elites who have been running the world for these many decades. And I think what's going on, Cheryl Atkinson, and I'm paraphrasing her post that she put out, she said, I think what could be happening is that there are remnants of the corrupt FBI still in positions of power who have control over certain material. And it's possible that they're trying to doctor material to make it look like Trump's all over these files. I contend to you that if Trump was all over these files, we would have known about this 10 years ago when Trump came down the escalator and he started talking about sealing the border and we need to deport the Mexican rapists, okay? We would have known about that. They would have been like, oh, no, this guy's an existential threat. I mean, obviously he's an existential threat. Look what they did with COVID and everything. But if he was in the files, we would know about it. I don't know what the hell is going on, though. I don't know. And I do think that Bongino is really mad. I think that Cash is really mad. And I don't know what... sometimes Trump runs his mouth in a way that I just think is a real amateur move. Either it's either 5D chess and I'm just too stupid to see it, or it's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you talking about? Like, obviously there's a list. This is also where the PSYOP could be coming in, because up until a week ago, 10 days ago, did you hear any Democrats at all clamoring for the release of the Epstein files? No. In fact, they wanted it to go away. They were like, let's just kick the can. The guy's dead. We don't have to worry about it. Of course he killed himself. And now that Trump and team have come out and said, oh yeah, I totally killed himself. And I know there's 30, now it's come out that there's 3 or 4 minutes missing on this tape on the night he died. Like, what? These missing minutes on this CCTV stuff. Okay, that's weird. And they're like, oh, he totally killed himself. It's totally fine. Nothing to see here. And, he was just a pervert that liked child porn. And what's happening this week is Ghislaine Maxwell, I guess the lady who was helping to traffic nobody to nobody, except to Jeffrey Epstein. Nobody believes that. What's she doing now? She's like, no, I want to testify now. I want to testify. Please call me to testify. And so what is every Democrat doing? Democrats are like trying to get her to be able to testify, trying to push for the release of the list, trying to push for all these things because they think Trump is on it. They think Trump is implicated. Now, unfortunately, and I don't think this is part of the PSYOP, we had 5 Republicans who voted to not have Ghislaine testify. They blocked it, which I think is a really stupid thing to do. Look, guys, I've said this, and every single MAGA person would agree with this, okay? We love President Trump, okay? 100%. We like what he's doing. But we're not a ride or die. Most of MAGA is not ride or die for Trump no matter what. Like, most of MAGA would be like, if Trump is, seriously, legitimately implicated, if he has a child-touching problem, we would want to know about that. But again, I just don't think that's the case. We would have known about this. Now, there are reports that Trump might have caught a ride on the Epstein plane once, many, many years ago, before we knew what a dirtbag he was. I don't know. But my point is this, is that Ghislaine Maxwell wanting to testify, Democrats wanting the release of the list. I mean, is this the 5D chess we keep hearing about? Perhaps. I guess time will tell. All right, you're listening to the Angela Buck Show. We'll be right back. Steven had a very good point, and he started to say it off the air. I was like, stop it. Say it on the air. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, I think. I'm sure. Go ahead, Steven. Well, it's about the Epstein stuff.
I just love how everything's turned around 180 between the parties. Mm-hmm. Now the left is saying there's corruption, something weird's going on, which has been the conservative argument for the whole
Low
time.
these many years.
And it takes me back to, and they always do that. Like, it takes me back to when Hillary was running against Trump. And at first, Trump said Russian collusion.
Right.
And then next thing you know, every Democrat was pointing at Trump going Russian collusion. And I just laugh at the fact that the I'm rubber and you're glue argument works in adulthood.
And it does. And this is also a theory I have, is that no one really graduates high school. We really don't. Like, it's just, we're just grown-ups in high school with the drama and the gossip and all that stuff. On that note, though, let's talk about the Russia Gate stuff, because that is heating up. And we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to try and do a speed round here. I'll give it a shot. The Russia collusion hoax stuff is not going away. And it's not going away because the FBI released a story saying, hey, yeah, FBI is probing what Brennan and Clapper and Comey did. Now, we talked about this last week a little, but it goes deeper, because it's not just these three guys. It's these three guys plus Strzok, Page, Andrew McCabe, Hillary Clinton, obviously, Obama, obviously, Joe Biden, obviously, and anyone connected to them. And I'm just wondering how quick, because none of these guys got pardons. And we're going to talk about the auto pen, which that's not going away either. None of these guys got pardons. How quick are they going to flip? See, they are relatively low-level people. I mean, I know that they were head of the FBI and they were DNI and they were head of the CIA. Obviously, these are bad actors. These are bad people who knew the Russia collusion hoax was a lie, who pushed it anyway, and who also knew that this whole thing originated from Team Clinton. They knew it. They did not. They did not disclose that. They did not say, "Hey," when they went to the FISA court to get these warrants to spy on Trump, to spy on Carter Page, Papadopoulos, whoever. They did not say, "Listen, we've come across this dossier." Now, granted, it was given to us by the Clinton camp. They didn't say that. They said they acted like that this was a for real thing, and not some completely pulled out of the butt of some Trump-hating fantasist, okay? And I've said this before, it's literally in the book Shattered. I got up to the point where the book talks about, Shattered was the postmortem of the Clinton run. Because remember, she was gonna shatter that glass ceiling. And then, of course, we had a beautiful bit of schadenfreude when Kamala Harris could not shatter the glass ceiling and pulled the exact same stunt that Hillary did on election night. She's like, "I'm not coming out to speak. I'm speaking. Well, she didn't want to speak on that night, just like Hillary Clinton didn't either. I mean, that's how little these people care about their people that talk about rioting and dying. That's how little they cared. Like, they're just like, no, not going to do it. Like, I'm not going to do it. Anyway, in Shattered, it talked about how Robbie Mook, Clinton's campaign manager, talked about how they were working on this whole idea that Trump was a Russian agent and this is why she lost. They were laying that groundwork before. The FBI knew it, CIA knew it, Obama knew it, Biden, I mean, they all knew. And remember also that this is going to open up the can of worms that is the Hillary Clinton email server. The email server that was receiving classified documents and classified emails, and also was receiving emails from aliases like Gmails of Obama, of perhaps Biden, and the whole Obama cabinet, which is like obviously trying to skirt FOIA requests, okay? Obama lied about it. He said he didn't know anything about it. He said he didn't know she had a server. It's like, well, you were emailing her on the server using an alias. So that puts to bed that lie. I mean, it's a very multi-layered, deep thing. And if you have not seen The Plot Against the President, Lee Smith has a great book. Also a documentary. I believe it's on Prime, which is shocking. Watch it. It's very good. But I mean, this thing goes very, very deep. And I don't think that Trump, and it also, I think, is going to get to the point, and back to the Epstein thing, it's going to get to the point where, like Stephen said, the Democrats are clamoring for this. They are clamoring for it. Now, they're not going to clamor for James Comey and Jim Clapper, Brennan Clapper Comey. They're not going to clamor for that to happen. But they are clamoring for this. And I think Trump is, again, winking and nodding, saying, well, the Epstein stuff all connected to this too. It's all connected. All these people are connected. Everything's connected. So hopefully, as time goes on, we're gonna come to find that out. Now, let's get to the auto pen stuff, because this is interesting. So late last week, it was Friday, I believe, James Comer, who overall is really good. He's really good. Bombshell report was that he had taken, they on the, I think it's the government oversight or it's the weaponization of government, whatever James Comer's head of. They took some depositions last week of some Biden world people. And the depositions were on the auto pen. And what came out was that it was a confirmation that Biden did not know who the auto pen was signing pardons for, and he did not authorize it. And this is how out to lunch Biden is. He does an interview with New York Times. The New York Times is trying to, massage this into thinking that, it's nothing to see here. This is nothing. I mean, of course, presidents use auto pens. Their hands get tired writing all those pardons, even though you're not supposed to. Supreme Court said in 2005, no, you cannot use an auto pen for a pardon. You can use an auto pen to sign random letters to people who write into the president. No one is saying that an auto pen doesn't have its places, but to do pardons, especially the pardons that Joe Biden gave to not only convicted murderers on death row, federal death row, like commuting their sentences, like, never mind. I mean, I know you're a victim of these horrible people, but, there are constituents now, and we have to commute their sentences. Maybe we can get them the right to vote on as they sit in jail for the rest of their lives. They wish. So not only that, but they're giving pardons to really questionable people like Fauci, like Hunter Biden, like Joe Biden, like many, many people in the Biden crime family. And Comer's like, yeah, he had no idea. And again, the New York Times trying to massage this, giving Joe Biden an out. Joe Biden's like, he's so out of it. His brain is so pudding at this point. He's like, yeah, I had no idea. I had no idea what I was signing. And Comer's like, yeah, there are several people in Biden world who were basically in charge of the auto pen. But again, it's the person who's going to be the fall guy versus who was actually telling these people which names to put up for pardons. And I think we're going to come to find out that people like Liz Cheney, and Fauci, and Adam Schiff, who's in trouble this week for mortgage fraud. What is up with all these Democrats and mortgage fraud? Him and Tish James over in New York. Anyway, we're going to come to find out that these people probably solicited pardons and that there was probably money exchanged. Just my opinion. I mean, we are dealing with the Biden crime family here. Like, they're very evil. I mean, they're very evil and corrupt and all those things, but they're also just motivated by money. And they're motivated by the idea that they don't have any. Listen, as someone who cops to her lack of employable skills, okay? This is my employable skill, Stephen, running my mouth. As someone who cops to this, I can tell you right now, the Bidens have no employable skills. They do not. They were dining out on Joe Biden's power for these many decades, okay? So obviously, my opinion is that there were probably monies exchanged in order to get these pardons. But the Fauci pardon in particular is interesting because Rand Paul has said that he's going to be, he wants the DOJ to look into that pardon because obviously Dr. Fauci is an evil man. He was doing gain of function, lied about it, and evidently there's statute of limitations that are not up yet with Fauci, with Clapper, with Brennan, with Comey. So, it's a delicious melange of karma, if you will. The karma is incoming, and it will continue to come. All right, that is my time, ladies and gentlemen. I got to 2 topics? Yay! You've been listening to the Angela Box Show. Until next time, everybody, keep kicking ass and taking names. Peace!